What's up YouTube, Kristo here, and I've got another installment of Frag Chat for you. I was quite shocked by how well received my first one was, and on such a boring topic as citrus as well. No pun intended really either, just because I do find citrus really boring in fragrances, but yeah, it had probably my most views in the first 24 hours than any video I've ever done. I was not expecting that at all, so thought it was about time I do another installment. This time I wanted to do something relevant, of course, but kind of stay away from notes and the actual smells and auras and chords and whatever. So thought I'd pose a new question to you. Are perfumers still important or relevant for that? I've been thinking about this a lot recently. When I first started watching videos on YouTube, reviewers, long before I was actually making videos myself, there were quite a few perfumers that were held in very high esteem. Annick Minardo, Jacques Cavalier, two just come right off the top of my head. And you know, back in the day, you know, everybody was going on about how great they are and, you know, how they're master perfumers and stuff. Where today, those are two names you almost never hear anymore. Now, I know the kind of, the general atmosphere of the Fragcom has gone from kind of mid and high-end designers to now more indie brands and niche and, you know, high-end niche and ultra high-end niche and all that. So obviously that is an explanation, but I think that's kind of where my question comes in. You know, are they still relevant if, you know, people who are seen as the masters back in the day of YouTube, of course, this is kind of, you know, our tiny little microcosm I'm referring to with them, but, you know, if they're already kind of just laid to the roadside and forgotten about, you know, are perfumers that disposable nowadays? Are they, you know, kind of hailed as masters and then forgotten about really quickly? That's kind of the thing I want to talk about here. Now, I've got really long set of notes, and there's no way I'm going to fit it all in. I know I'm going to forget some stuff. I've got like a page and a half of notes here. So if I'm going to be looking up over the camera, that's why. So basically, one of the things I wanted to talk about, of course, the transition in taste. Like I've already mentioned, the fragrance community in YouTube, on YouTube, Facebook as well, in the last 5 years has shifted from designer to niche and indie. But definitely as well, even before I was into the YouTube scene, when I was looking on Fragrantica and base notes and stuff, there were still very few mentions of niche and indie. There were more than YouTube, definitely, but not like today. If you go on Fragrantica base notes, it's overwhelmingly about indie and niche fragrances. And a lot of these people, especially in the indie world today, are often self-taught. They have very minimal training. They're usually basically DIY. The extent of their background, you know, will differ dramatically, but very few of them have the credentials that these big high-end niche perfumers are holding on their resumes. Maurice Roussel, who is now one of the big perfumers in the fragrance community, a lot of people really love his work. You know, so when you look at someone like Maurice Roussel, who has very critically acclaimed fragrances, and you look at indie brands, you know, let's say perhaps Kerosene or Slumber House or Smellbent, you know, how different are they and how similar are they? Who's more credible than the other? Now, of course, it's going to depend on your taste, what you actually like. People who are going to be snobby and want the absolute most masterfully crafted fragrances in the world are probably going to go for a Guerlain fragrance over, let's say, Kerosene fragrance. Not necessarily, but, you know, I'd say 9 times out of 10, a high-end Guerlain fragrance will score higher with critics than a kerosene fragrance. But that brings up a whole new realm, like a very new realm, like just in the last 4 or 5 years in the Western world, the whole fascination now with these heavy Middle Eastern fragrances that are, you know, heavy with resins and rose, incense, oud, and things like that. They're just getting gobbled up by the West. And a lot of these perfumers that are working for these very, very, very indie Arab brands, they're often self-taught as well, or they've had the art passed down from their father, from generation to generation. You know, and people are raving and, you know, going crazy about these fragrances. So if, you know, some Middle Eastern fellow in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Oman, whatever, if he can craft a beautifully blended fragrance that's going to get raved and ranted about, and someone like, you know, Jacques Cavalier, Annick Menardo, they're trained professionals, is it still relevant today? Is it easy enough to just pick up some vials and start making your own fragrance? And I think it's kind of a valid question as well, because I do also see a lot of DIY indie brands popping up all the time, especially on Facebook. And, you know, I'm definitely not bashing them at all. I think it's great. You know, I don't know the first thing about making perfume. So, you know, I definitely have to take my hat off to someone who's, you know, brave enough to put things together and put them out there for the public to try and to critique. And I think that's really cool. I don't have the self-confidence to do that. I would be way too, you know, shy or worried about that people are going to say how terrible it is. And again, I don't know the first thing about it. Now, for me, personally, I don't really get hung up on perfumers. That said, there are a few that I really love. Antoine Lee, he's done a lot of my favorite fragrances. He's done some great work with the Tot Libre d'Orange, as well as Comme des Garçons. Christopher Sheldrake, who's worked with Serge Lutens, and Francis Courdian. Some of his designers are okay. I love Gaultier Squared. I think that's excellent. Narciso Rodriguez, amazing. But I'm a huge fan of his niche house. I think some of the most beautiful and luxurious, classy, masculine fragrances I've smelled from the kind of mainstream niche market, I would say, are from his brand Lumière Noire, Absolute pour le Soir. Just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous fragrances. That said, though, when I actually look at a fragrance, when I'm analyzing it, whether I would like it or not, usually I put very, very little thought into who the perfumer is and, you know, thinking about whether they're capable or not, or competent. That said, though, I think when it comes to buying indie perfume, especially with really, really, really high price tags, you know, Slumber House kind of comes to mind, Nasomatto as well. I've heard some people really, really bash Nasomatto and Slumber House. I've only tried a few Nasomatto fragrances. For the most part, I quite like them, but I definitely can see how some perfume snobs who are really fussy, you know, about notes and transitions and, you know, the bass notes standing up well and stuff. Yeah, I can definitely see why they might not be overly happy with Nasomatto. Slumber House, I haven't tried. Another one, Imaginary Authors. Both of them are from indie perfumers. They're actually quite close to a lot of the YouTube and Facebook community. I haven't tried any, but I have heard some very, very strong critiques. Just saying, you know, oh, these are just American guys who want to make perfume, and, you know, they just throw together things, and Americans love it because it's from America and it's better than European perfume and it's stranger and weirder, blah, blah, blah. I can't say. I'd really love to try a lot of their fragrances, and I haven't, so I can't pass judgment. But I can definitely see where the argument is coming in. You know, just some American guy who 10 years ago didn't know how to mix perfume, and now he's running, or she is running, their own indie brand. But is that a bad thing? If people like it, who cares? Time for you to weigh in with your 2 cents. What's your opinion on perfumers these days? Are they still relevant? Are they important? Are they necessary? If you're going to release a big ticket item, do you need the best perfumer there is, or can you risk it and go out with, you know, someone who's lesser known or not known at all? There are definitely some fragrances that just come out of nowhere and end up taking a lot of people by surprise. Who are your favorite perfumers? Any ones that you think are overrated or kind of unfortunately forgotten about these days? There you go. I know I'm forgetting something. I totally know I am, but it's enough for now, I suppose. So what do you think? What's your take? Perfumers, are they still relevant, needed, necessary? What? Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.